You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
In this episode of the Motor City Hypnotist Podcast, I'm going to discuss what happens when hypnosis goes wrong. And I'm going to explain using real-life examples of why that happened. And again, as always, stick around. I'm going to be giving away a free hypnosis guide.
I'm very important.
Get ready for the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright, originating from the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. He has hypnotized thousands of people from all over the United States. David R. Wright has been featured on news outlets all across the country and is the clinical director of an outpatient mental health and hypnosis clinic located just south of Detroit, where he helps people daily using the power of hypnosis. Welcome, the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright.
What is going on, people? It's David Wright back with you on this episode of the Motor City Hypnotist Podcast. We are here in the Podcast Detroit Northville studios, as always.
Yay.
And again, with me again is Matt Fox.
You know, I can't stop being here.
Yeah, it seems like do you live in there? Do you have a bed in here?
You know what? Baby's in the corner. Just that's all I'm saying.
Well, that's great.
Oh, good for you.
Finally, I got them.
Yeah, you know where that's from, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The famous Christian Bale rant.
Yep.
Yes. I can't get enough of that one.
Love it.
So yeah, we are here back with another episode. You can find me at motorcityhypnotist.com. On that website, you'll find the link for my podcast and also a bunch of other stuff. My stores in particular, where you can find Hypnosis MP3 recordings, ebooks, and other marketing material that may be helpful to you. And you can find me on social media. Please check in there, leave comments, follow me, do all those good things on Facebook, Motor City Hypnotist, YouTube, Motor City Hypnotist, on Twitter, Motor City Hypno, at Motor City Hypno, and also on Instagram, Motor City Hypno. And also, if you would like to contribute financially to the show, you can find me on Patreon, and that Patreon link will be in the show notes as well. And if you do that, if you do give a small donation per month, again, it helps the show and helps us keep things running and bringing you great content. We have cool stuff there. Coffee mugs, T-shirts. I don't know what else I'll have on there. I'll probably add something crazy. I don't know.
Buttons?
No, they might have buttons. I'll have to look for that.
All right.
I might be able to get stickers.
Yeah.
If you like stickers.
Yeah, like a chain with something on the end of it. You can.
Oh, that'd be great if they had watches on there.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Of course, you might have to. That might be more than $1 a month for the watch, but
all right,
we'll look into it. So yeah, any donation would be great. And again, you'll get some cool free stuff out of it. Also, and as with every episode, I like to give away my free hypnosis guide, and you can find the link to get that also in the show notes and on all my social media. The biggest thing I'd like you to do is please subscribe to the show and leave a review. Again, I want to have feedback. I want to, if you have ideas or questions or just if you want to just talk to me, leave a review. Tell us how the show's doing. If any topics that you want addressed that we haven't done yet, I will be happy to do that. So again, subscribe and leave a review, and also join me each week as I co-host the Psyched by MG podcast, which will be coming up in just less than an hour if you're on Facebook Live.
Woohoo!
So look for that one. So, as always, we're going to start with our winner of the week.
That's how winning is done.
So our winner of the week, and I'm going to throw this name at you, Matt. See if you know who this is.
All right.
Gary Larson.
Oh, Gary Larson is the author, illustrator of a popular cartoon.
Yes.
I want to say Garfield?
Nope. Close. Well, not close really, but
Calvin and Hobbes? No, that's not Gary Larson.
think of a more esoteric, abstract.
Oh, Far Side?
Far Side.
There he
That's
is.
it.
I have all of his books. I should know
I do
that.
too. Yes, I do too. And this is kind of a selfish winner of the week for me because I love Gary Larson. I love Far Side. I
Yes.
have almost everything he's done. I've always had the desk count and 1-a-day desk calendar things. I've had those for years. I hadn't realized that he retired in 1995.
Really?
So it's been 25 years.
Did he retire from Midvale School for the Gifted?
Yes, he probably did.
Stop it. It's one of my favorites.
That is one of my favorites. That's a great one.
Oh, good for you.
So Gary Larson, legendary creator of the cartoon The Far Side, retired 25 years ago. Now, and I don't know if you know, he's published a new cartoon, the first one in 25 years.
I did not know that.
I did not either till I just saw this on the news.
Fantastic.
And this just came out July 8th, so it was a couple of days ago.
Goodness.
So he did admit, though, the artwork is slightly different because he's using technology now,
Okay.
you know.
He's had some time to figure it out. Yeah.
and I was going, you know what? That was one of the things I was going to do before the show is just to look and see how old he was.
I got it.
And I would just be interested to see where, you know, how old he is.
I'm looking him up.
Yeah. Matt's got that handled.
You can keep talking. I'm still looking.
Okay. That'll work.
It's a piece of crap. It doesn't work.
So yeah, Gary Larson has put out a new cartoon for the first time in 25 years. And so,
He's 69 years old.
oh, that's not bad.
No.
I thought he would be older just based that he was retired for 25 years.
Well, if you were in your late 40s, wouldn't you want to retire too?
Oh, that'd be awesome if I could.
Oh, good for you.
Well, I'm past that, so I'm already too late. But yeah, Gary Larson is our winner of the week because he's just put out a couple of new cartoons after 25 years in retirement. And again, it's a selfish one for me just because I love Far Side, one of my favorites of all time. So, Gary Larson, way to go.
That's how winning is done.
So, back to it.
So today on the podcast, we are going to talk about what happens when hypnosis goes wrong. I know we've hit on this and I know more than one podcast. There's a large percentage of the I wouldn't say large. There's a significant percentage of the population who just assume hypnosis is fake. They just don't believe it works. They believe it's a scam. They believe it's a conspiracy theory if they have a bunch of people. So when we talk about hypnosis going wrong, they're skeptics anyway. So they're just going to say, oh well, it didn't work because it never did work. They'll have an excuse for it. But when I talk about hypnosis going wrong, the thing that I'm talking about, and I'm going to use this term, you may or may not know what it is, but you will by the time we're done. It's called Abreaction. In Abreaction, and I'm just going to read the definition of what Abreaction is.
Boring.
And, no, this will explain it. The expression and consequent release of a previously repressed emotion achieved through reliving the experience that caused it, typically through hypnosis or suggestion. So I know that's a little convoluted.
I was going to say, can you say that 3 times
Yes.
faster?
I'll break it down in practical terms if I can. So an abreaction is remembering something that you had repressed and not realizing that it happened. So that could be a traumatic event as a child. It could be something that you experience as an adult. It could be the result of post-traumatic stress disorder. If you've had an incident, or typically when people talk about PTSD, they talk about war and people who are in the armed services. But PTSD can happen after a car accident.
Right.
So there are a lot of things that can bring on these past memories. So really what an abreaction is, it's just a reaction to a prior memory. Let's just put that in simple terms. Now, an abreaction also, in my setting, doing hypnosis, an abreaction can also be just an emotional release. It doesn't have to be linked to a trauma of any type. I'll give you an example. I had a client probably about a year ago. We talked about anxiety the last podcast. Very, very anxious, panic attacks, worried about everything. So we did hypnosis for the first session. So once we got into that relaxed state, once we got her into that deep state of relaxation, you could just see the change in her face. It just she just broke down and just
she kind of sunk into the chair and
just sobbing like uncontrollably.
Oh, wow.
Just broke down. And I'll get into what happens or how I address that as the show goes on.
Sure.
But the reaction was just pure emotion, just pure just sobbing tears. So once we were back, let's say composed, back when she was comfortable and had let all of that out, she said, I don't know why that happened. She goes, I've never felt that relaxed in my entire life, not even as a kid. So just of her, think about it. She was experiencing anxiety since childhood, constant worry, constant anxiety. Her mind had never shut off. And then I get her there. I'm going to say she's probably in her mid-30s, maybe 40. I get her into my office. We do hypnosis for the first time, and she's able to shut her brain off for the first time ever, probably.
Wow.
And that feeling just overwhelmed her. Now that's a good reaction, because she thought, wow, this is amazing. And but it also kind of let her know that she spent so much time worrying and that, I'm going to say it's a waste, but she felt like, wow, that this has been controlling me for so long. So it's an emotional reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So in the setting of hypnosis, an abreaction could be just the release of emotion. It can be attached to a prior event or trauma. It might just be a feeling you've never felt before, and that brings on the emotion. So there are times, and that's a situation, again, a specific example of when I had an abreaction in my office, sitting down with a client one-on-one. They have an abreaction, and we're able to talk about it afterwards and address it, because that's the important thing. Because if it was linked to a trauma or something, then we would know, okay, we can work on that.
Right.
If it's just letting go of emotion because you feel good, I reinforce that. I'm like, yeah, didn't that feel great? You can feel that way all the time if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely something you have to address, because it's just this pent up emotion over time. It maybe years, maybe lifetime. So let me go into a couple more reasons why people might have an abreaction. People may react emotionally when they reach a state of relaxation in their body and mind that they have not felt in a very long time, like this client that I just talked about. Mm-hmm. Clients who typically feel more emotional are apt to experience it, as opposed to people who are very emotionally closed off.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So in a clinical setting, of course, I'm going to work through these issues. If somebody has an abreaction, we're going to address why it happens and what happened and where it's coming from. And when somebody's in that state, there are specific steps that you have to take. And for me, I'm not saying you have to take it. This is my approach to it. One, I speak calmly and firmly, just so they know I'm there. Because a lot of times, if they're overwhelmed with this, they'll just feel like that they're alone. Mm-hmm. I tell the client to open their eyes so that they can now focus on the room that they're in. So if it's a memory from the past that's resurfacing, now they're getting a different view, a different environment. Gotcha. They see that they're in the present. And a lot of times with hypnosis, that there's physical contact. And by that, I mean, sometimes I will hold somebody's wrist or I'll touch their shoulder lightly. And these are things, without getting into the whole process of it, these are things that we call anchors. Like when I'm saying something specific and I just touch a shoulder, it's just a physical anchor for that statement. But during an abreaction, I don't touch the client at all, because I don't want them to feel any contact
Right.
from another person at that point.
Maybe another outside influence that really isn't needed.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And I want, and really the fourth step is I help them become comfortable and then relax, and then we debrief on what happened. And that debrief is the most important things. We go back and talk about, where did these emotions come from? Was it a trauma? Was it just pent up emotion and feeling good about where you were at?
Sure.
So I go through all of that, and I'm going to focus on a specific thing when, not in a clinical setting, but in a show setting, when hypnosis went horribly wrong.
Okay.
I may have referenced this on a prior podcast. I'm not going to use the hypnotist name just because I just don't think it's necessary. So let's go back to August of last year, August of 2019.
I love the fact that you have some professional courtesy right now.
I just don't. I don't think it would help to call somebody out.
No,
by
it
name.
wouldn't. But that's why I respect you for that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's important.
Stop it.
Yeah, it is. So it's at James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Now I do a lot of high school and college shows, and James Madison University was having a freshman orientation where they have all the freshmen in. They have these, orientation for 3-4 days, and they have these parties, and they have a hypnotist show. Mm-hmm. That's the culmination of their orientation that last evening.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I'm just going to read what the news report said. James Madison University will not pay hypnotist blank blank following a show that left some students feeling uncomfortable. Students who were at the event, like blank blank, said the event was supposed to be fun, but as it went on, not everybody was laughing. We kind of just went along with it, and it was pretty fun, but towards the end, it started getting a little bit anxious, as a lot of people needed help when they weren't just getting out of trance. So that statement is really important, and we're going to come back to that.
Okay.
In a post sent to the news outlet that printed the story, someone said throughout the show, the hypnotist kept having to get an abnormal amount of people out of their trance because they were crying or shaking. Spokesman Bill Wyatt said at least 10 students had negative reactions, and now the university says it will not pay so-and-so the blank amount hypnotist fee. The amount's not important. Just looking at the situation, it didn't go as planned. Based on that, we notified the booking agency that we're not going to pay the hypnotist fee. So that's just the general story. So I'm going to get into the specifics of it because there was a whole Reddit thing that happened by the students after this occurred. So long story short, let me set the picture. You have a hypnotist come in. He starts working now. Typically, and if you didn't hear the Secrets of Stage Hypnosis podcast a couple of times ago, go back and listen to that because you'll get an idea of how a show is supposed to work. Typically, you have a bunch of chairs on stage. You ask for volunteers. You bring them up. Apparently, this hypnotist was working the audience as a whole. So over 100 people.
Oh, okay.
So first mistake, and again, as a professional, I'm not saying his name as courtesy, of course.
Yep.
But first of all, working with that many people, there's no way you're going to be able to keep track of everybody and what's going on.
Because during that episode,
What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
during that episode you're talking about, you actually look for people to point out and then pull
Right.
up on stage
Right.
yourself. Okay.
So first mistake is that this hypnotist was working the crowd as a whole, thinking that would be, I don't know if and again, I was not there. So all of the things I'm saying are based on my reading about this.
Gotcha.
Just as a disclaimer. So what happened was, as the show went on, people started having emotional reactions. And here's my professional opinion. And before I get into that, I'm gonna tell you a couple of things off of this Reddit thread from students who were there. Throughout the show, he kept having to get an abnormal amount of people out of their trance because they were crying, shaking, or other things. The tipping point was when a frog, I'm assuming frog is a label for like an RA or a student leader, was sobbing uncontrollably was unable to walk with assistance. She literally collapsed and had to be escorted out. After that, the hypnotist was unable to get one of the guys out of his trance.
Oh my gosh.
We were all escorted out the back door, and there were many police, ambulances, and fire trucks there.
Oh my God.
So this was a big cluster bleep. I mean, it was like,
What the fuck are you doing?
yeah.
I want to know what he said.
And then one of the other one was the hypnotist went way overboard and tried to hypnotize over 100 people at once, resulting in multiple people having panic attacks for being left in trance for too long. I was there, and the whole experience was extremely uncomfortable. And then here's another comment. The hypnotist spent most of his time handling students that were shaking, crying, or otherwise reacting badly, which caused a cascading effect through the crowd. So, and again, I've highlighted some very specific things that I'm gonna address once it's done.
You said he touched?
When
I said he was...
Hypnotist spent most of his time handling students that were shaking.
Handling. I thought you said touched. Okay.
I don't think it's physical. I think interacting would probably be.
All right.
In this one, we're going to hit on all of these, but this one was the most kind of disturbing for me as a professional hypnotist and hypnotherapist. The hypnotist stated abreactions happen at least once every show. Now, years of doing this.
Okay.
You already see what's happening.
Yeah,
here.
I can see what's happening.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Wow.
I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It did. Yeah, yes, it did. So in general, I'm going to break this down according to my professional opinion. You're looking at all the information from the outside. This guy was, I'm picking on the young people again, not intentionally. This was a young guy, probably in his 20s, from the information I saw. He actually had worked for one of the agencies that books me at times.
Okay.
I didn't know him personally, so I don't know him, and I don't know his style. I've never seen his show. But again, probably fairly inexperienced if he's in his 20s.
Right.
Overall. First issue there. Second issue is trying to hypnotize 100 people at one time. You're taking on way more than you can keep track of. And that's the second problem. That was probably a mistake on his part. The third part is as soon as one person had an abreaction, which we explained earlier in the podcast, is an emotional response to being under hypnosis or being in a relaxed state, he should have stopped immediately, went to that student, took care of them, and just said, we have to stop for now. I have to take care of this person.
Right.
This has happened to me on stage before. Out of, hundreds of shows, it's probably happened 2 or 3 times.
Where there's been an abreaction.
Where there's been an abreaction on stage. The last one was, I was at a state fair in Pennsylvania last summer. And there's a skit. Of course, whenever I say skit.
I'm a trial lawyer. I'm not part of your family, and I don't do skits with my mouth.
So I was doing a skit. And the skit is, everything I say is, I remember which one it was. It's I call it a night at the movies. I say, okay, in a moment, you're going to sit up and you're going to look at the screen. There's going to be a movie playing, and it's going to be the most suspenseful movie you've ever seen. In fact, you can barely watch. And then it moves from that into scary movie. It's the scariest movie you've ever seen.
I can see where an abreaction might happen, yeah.
And then it goes to sad movie. And I always finish on funny because I want, but what we do with that skit is we just see a range of emotions and just by suggestion, I'm just suggesting that this is your emotion and they feel it. So when I got to the sad one, a girl just a lot of times they'll cry or have a tear. This woman, it was a girl. She was younger, probably a teenager, broke down, just sobbing.
Wow.
Just sobbing. So I said to the volunteers, I said, okay, everybody close your eyes and just relax. And then I spent probably 3-4 minutes just with her And in fact, I didn't even say anything to the audience.
Sure.
I just didn't, I was trying not to draw attention because I didn't want her to feel embarrassed or whatever. But I spent a few minutes with her, had her look at me in the eyes. I said, "Are you okay?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm fine." I just had to make sure she was okay before I went forward.
Correct.
So again, as a professional, the first time he saw somebody reacting poorly, he should have stopped right there and addressed it.
Wow. Yeah.
Those were the hypnotist mistakes. Now, this is my other theory because there was this whole Reddit thing, 16 pages of comments from students. And some of these comments were deleted because I remember reading them when this first happened last summer. So one of the comments, and I'll explain why I'm bringing this up in a moment. One of the comments was from a girl, and she goes, "Oh, I was there, and I was stuck, and I couldn't wake up, and the harder I tried, I just couldn't wake up, and I was so scared, and the ambulance had to come and get me." And then the comment after that, people replied and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel bad." And then like 3-4 comments down, her comment, she replied back. She goes, "Yeah, I am taking medications for bipolar disorder and depression and anxiety."
Wow.
And I'm not criticizing that.
No.
But this goes back to responsibility for the hypnotist. I always, in my pre-talk, I always say, don't volunteer if you have to take a bunch of pills to feel normal each day. I said, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that mentally and emotionally, this is, again, just to be safe and just to protect myself and them. So overall, this hypnotist pre-talk probably didn't cover the things that you have to cover. You will never get stuck in hypnosis. It's impossible. I don't want you up here if you're taking a bunch of pills. That's just, I don't take people up who are drunk, like in bars or casino shows. It just doesn't work. You're asking for trouble.
Right.
So back to the audience part. This girl said that. Here's in my opinion, my professional opinion, what happened at the show. He started working the crowd, the 100 people or so, and thinking he could handle it.
I'm very important. I have many leather-bound books.
Yeah. He thought he could handle 100 students in the crowd, and then one person started having a reaction. Either he didn't see it or he didn't address it. I don't know. That part, who knows? I wasn't there. I didn't see it. But when somebody starts having a reaction, people around them are like, "Oh, what the hell's going on?" Then they start to get worried. And it's this progression of fear now that starts coming out. So one person could have lit this fuse. And I will say, and again, this is not being a criticism, with teenagers, there is a tendency to overreact or dramatize situations.
You don't say that? Really? Is that a true statement? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
So what happened, in my professional opinion, is that one person started having a reaction. The people around that person started to worry themselves and thought, well, am I okay? And it just spread. It spread like a fear through the crowd.
Dominoes.
And then, and I can't get into people's minds. This is just my assumption. People are looking and saying, "Oh, what's wrong with them? They're getting attention. What if the same thing's happening to me?" And I'm not saying they're thinking this out, thinking it out as a plan.
Right.
It's just the natural reaction they're having. Oh, maybe this is happening to me too. And this, again, it's the spreading of the psychological fear that happened. And then everybody started reacting the same way. Now you have just a mess. Yes.
I almost want to say something. I almost want to say something, but I'll hold that for afterwards.
I know. In that, in my opinion, is what happened. One person reacted poorly. Everybody else started getting scared and then assumed they were feeling the same thing or that they were stuck also. And then once you get, in 100 people, once you get 10, 12, 15, 20 now, everybody's like, oh,
the power
it's happening to me too. It's a power of suggestion. And that's exactly what hypnosis is.
The power of suggestion on top of the power of numbers kind of bit him in the butt. Yeah.
It did. And I will say, in all fairness to him, he did some things wrong, but I think the result was not totally. I think there was blame on both sides here, I guess is what I'm getting to.
Gotcha.
But that shows you, just simply put, how if you're not experienced, if you're not on top of what you're doing, things could go very badly.
Very much so, yeah.
I mean, and this was I feel bad for the students. It was probably scary because if you don't understand how this works, you could think you're stuck. Mm-hmm. And again, this goes back to the hypnotist making sure his pre-talk covers all of that. Mm-hmm. It says, listen, we went through that in the stage hypnosis podcast. Look back at that one. You can't get stuck. I can't force you to do anything you don't want to do. You're not going to give up secrets. This is just a relaxed state of mind. That's all it is. And it's harmless. So those people out there, if you've ever experienced something like this, chances are it's a mix of hypnotist inexperience and overreaction by the audience. And I guess that's a good place to end it.
Go for it.
Because that really is a simple way to look at it and say that's really what it was. It was just that.
So scary.
It is scary, and that's why I wanted to address this specifically. Is that was a big incident that got news coverage and probably messed up a lot of other hypnotist schedules, because I'm sure a lot of schools were like, oh man, we don't want to have a hypnotist in. You see what happened over there,
right?
Which is sad, because most of us, again, are good and professional and know what we're doing. So those of you who've considered it and maybe thought because of a story like this that it wouldn't be safe, you need to hire the right person.
Right.
Do your homework. Talk to the person. Look for reviews. All of those are a must. All right.
Perfect.
So we are finishing up here, people. I know we are going to be back the next episode. I think I teased this a couple of episodes before, but it got pushed back because I found something else to put ahead of it. But at some point, and this might happen next podcast, I'm going to discuss movies and television shows that accurately portray therapy, which is rare. It'll be interesting.
I live my life through movie quotes.
And I was going to say, if you like movies, this might be good for you.
Really quick.
Yeah. So thanks for being with me, folks. Come back next time. Again, wherever you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review. I would very much appreciate it. Change your thinking, change your life, laugh hard, run fast, and be kind. I'll see you soon.